Hi guys, how are you today? The new GRE is a topic of discussion in many forums. So, is the new GRE really tougher than the old one? There are lots of opinions and views on this in the web. Let's ask Dr. Vijaya, a GRE and GMAT trainer, an educational psychologist, for her views on the new GRE. So, Dr. Vijaya, tell me, is the new GRE tougher than the old one?
Yes, George, I heard this question before about the revised GRE. In fact, there were a few emails also in my inbox which address the same question. Now, is the revised GRE going to be difficult? In a way, yes. In another way, I would say no. Now, why I would say yes is that it is a shift towards reasoning. For the first time, at least, the GRE test makers have used the word verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning. That itself is interesting to observe. But I would say in the overall analysis, the shift towards the reasoning is a welcome one. Why a welcome one? Because if you were to see the earlier examination and a lot of criticism about the earlier examination, the GRE from test trainers and test takers is that it's a whole lot of words that they have to mug up, and they call it mug up because just memorize, recall some of the meanings and you can answer half the questions in the verbal section of the earlier GRE. But interestingly now the vocabulary is undermined and the overall emphasis is on reasoning in context through the text completion questions, which is a takeoff on the sentence completion questions in the previous examination. Then you have the sentence equivalence questions that is closer to the sentence completion itself in that, but except that you have to choose two answers for one blank or multiple answers from the multiple options. You have reading comprehension now. A changed reading comprehension rather. The change is interesting in that it has become very closer to the GMAT. In the GMAT you see the reading comprehension and critical reasoning questions. Now the GRE reading comprehension now is a blend of these two. A blend in the sense within the reading comprehension itself they have integrated the inferential, the weakening, the strengthening type of argument-based questions which we see in the GMAT. In that direction, the reasoning is justified. The use of the word reasoning is justified. And it is a paradigm shift in the sense that, to quote Benjamin S. Bloom, a famous educational psychologist, who had proposed a taxonomy of educational objectives, in that there are 6 different learning objectives in a progression. And the lower rung you would find knowledge, comprehension and application, which was the GRE in the past more. In the higher rung of the taxonomy you would see analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Now these 3 form the highest cognitive capabilities. In fact, evaluation is the most complex of capabilities that one can have. Now, the new test has, I would say, only analysis, synthesis and evaluation in the verbal reasoning especially. Quantitative, now one thing you must also know that when we speak about the evaluation, the synthesis or the analysis in the reverse order, the lower level skills of knowledge, comprehension and application are subsumed in these higher levels, which means knowledge, comprehension and application are required for you to reach the higher levels of thinking called analytical and evaluative thinking. The verbal text completion questions, the reading comprehension, overall the verbal reasoning section of the GRE emphasizes the analytical and evaluative reasoning. Essay you can consider as an example of synthesizing. Now, the meanings of the words, the vocabulary to some extent is there in the sentence equivalence and text completion questions. But we could see that the vocabulary used, though almost as tough as the earlier one, have different layers of meaning. Now this also means that a test taker will have to spend a lot of time reading varied texts, complex texts in fact, because in text, in a verbal context, in a text. Now I was also interestingly observing that the sentences, the sample questions have words and idioms with varying nuanced layers of meaning. Now you could see some questions in which you thought, now why not this word? But if you read overall the context of the question, now the question has a paragraph, you see that to understand the tone, the mood, and the overall feel of the text, if you were to go into the deeper layers, those words don't fit and some other words in the option fit. So in general, we can say that here is a question type, the text completion and the sentence equivalent question types, wherein you have to go into the implications of a given verbal text. This requires some time for somebody to read, analyze, evaluate, and spend a lot of time practicing on those things, and a wider reading of science, social sciences, literature, all that is required for somebody to be comfortable with this type of questions. And the reading comprehension also, we can hardly call it comprehension now, because there is a whole lot of inference, assumption questions, which is like critical reasoning of the GMAT. How do you evaluate a text? What would strengthen or weaken the argument? And questions wherein you will have to find the missing element in the paragraph. So this is an integration, or I would say a harmonious blend of critical reasoning and reading comprehension. And that way it is just simply closer to the GMAT. In the quantitative reasoning too, there is an increase in terms of the reasoning element, the cognitive element, in that you have to analyze paragraphs, data in different forms, statistics questions are there, coordinate geometry questions are there. You may have to devise a strategy to answer some of the questions that are given there. I think overall the difficulty level of the English as well and the math section has increased, but it has become more of a learnable text. That in that, no test taker would find, no GRE aspirant would find the preparation boring. Unlike in the past, that the fear of the vocabulary, that you'll have to learn a lot of vocabulary, mug up the meanings, etc. That boredom is completely eliminated from the new test. I think that is a good direction which favors the test takers. But there are a few more elements that favor the test takers. In that you have a calculator, which itself shows that the skills tested are not about computation and or the basic calculation. There could be more complex calculations that you have to do. But that becomes an offshoot of overall quantitative reasoning rather than, let's say, find out your ability to compute faster. That is one of the interesting things. Then the quantitative comparison stage, you have numeric entry where there are no options. So it's a mix of multiple options, multiple answers. Yeah. The advantage, of course, is that you don't have to worry about marking a wrong answer, because wrong answers do not carry negative marks. You miss out on a question, you can, you go back to a question, you can answer the difficult questions later, you can skip questions and come back later, but it's important that you answer all the questions in a section. Your first section, the performance in the first math and the verbal section will determine what sort of questions, the higher order questions are going to present in the second section, because it is section adaptive. That is, from one subsection to the next section, there is an increase in difficulty of the question types based on how you perform in the first. Overall learnable, overall something that somebody won't get, let us say, distracted with the lot of words that you have to learn. This vocabulary is, of course, important to answer text completion and sentence equivalent questions, but in a more contextual situation, which makes the learning also much more interesting. Yes, I think that given a good number of people would ask how long would it take to answer prepare for the examination. I think these are all questions that one has to address based on at what level one is progressing. But starting earlier than how somebody would have started for the present GRE would be advisable. I think that answers your question, George. Okay, now more on that, let's discuss it some other time. Thank you.